What's up everybody? This is my video for installing the FlyBeeper mod, and I don't want this video to be too overwhelming for everyone. It's really not that hard to install, especially if you're just swapping out the top panel and replacing it with the FlyBeeper mod already pre-installed with the power switch and charge port. Please read the description for updates on the status of where to purchase or print this FlyBeeper mod.
If you've ever wondered what that rattling sound is in all my videos, that was my first beeper mod that had failed. Not failed, but didn't work as well as I had planned. And they got knocked loose due to all the rough riding that I've been doing. Essentially, I just tried splicing two beepers together, and that ended up not working out quite the way I had hoped. So I'm going to remove that and do it the right way. Alright, I just removed the stock beeper and the quieter beeper that I got off Amazon. So this is the assembly of the original MSX MSP M Super V3. This is the top panel that goes right here. And the other day I was trying to figure out where I could put this beeper on the outside of the shell so that I can hear it. Because when it's here, it's too quiet. When it's up here, it's too quiet. It measures around 85 decibels when it's out in the open, but as soon as I put the top panel on, it reduces it by 10 decibels, and then once I put the EUC bodyguard on, it reduces it another 10 decibels. So it's only about 60 to 55 decibels with everything on it. And when I'm going 40 miles per hour with that wind noise, there's no way you're gonna hear the beepers, which I can attest to that. So my initial thought was to put it right here under the handle, but if you do that, you can't get your hand through here to lift it up. And I was like, okay, well, I'll put it off to one side. But you can't do that either, because when you put the seat on, it will rest on that and then be all crooked. So now I am going to talk about the perfect beeper mod that I have designed and printed. So I was looking at this and I was thinking, man, if only there was a way I could put this beeper right there, because I've never used this USB port. I don't know how many people do, but I've never used it. So why don't we just take that out of there, and maybe I could move this to right here and put the stock beeper right here. I was like, oh, that'll work perfectly. I measured it all out, and I got this one in hopes of drilling this out and then moving this over here. And I wanted to model this out beforehand because I'm an engineer and I like to model things out before I actually do it in real life, because you can learn a lot through doing everything virtually. And I was able to pull this file off of EUC Guy's model of the M Super V3, and I pulled off this model, looked at the hole geometries, and found out that they were all different geometries. The picture I posted on my Instagram page. And this charge port is the smallest of the three holes. So if I were to move this in here, it would be way too loose. So I got the model and I moved the geometry of the charge port hole to the center position, and maybe you can see how the geometry is a little bit different. And then I modeled the perfect space for this beeper to sit right there. And it's already a snug fit. It's not gonna go anywhere. That way, this is literally pointed right at your ears when you're riding. If you're sitting down, it's literally gonna be 2 feet below your ears, pointing right up towards the chin of your helmet. It's gonna be awesome, and I really hope this works, because I cannot hear the beeps at all when I'm riding. It scares me a lot, especially since my fall at 37 miles per hour when I broke my shoulder, my collarbone. And the wheel was beeping at me the whole time up until I hit cutoff, but I couldn't hear the beeps, and that was at 37 miles per hour. So I'm really hoping this works. So here it is all the way assembled. I've got the beeper, I've got the charge port, and I've got the power button. So now that my wheel is apart and I've removed the beeper so that I can put it right here, because this one is louder than the black ones you buy on Amazon or AliExpress. So if you're gonna buy a beeper, buy the white ones, or just buy these parts from Yuko or eWheels. eWheels was happy to send me this assembly, and this was the original plan, but when I realized that I had access to a 3D printer, I was like, hey, let's 3D print this. And then I was able to buy the individual charge ports from Yuko, because eWheels only sells the entire assembly, and I didn't want to have to deal with all of this glue stuff, and I kind of had to anyways just to get the rubber cap off of this, which you could buy separately. I didn't realize that. But yeah, it's all assembled on here now. Now I just need to split the shell and install it. And also, because this is going to be on the outside, it's going to be really loud when I turn this on and off. So I'm going to install a switch for this, so I can turn it off when I'm at work or in a restaurant or in a store. I can turn it off so that when I turn on and off my wheel, it won't beep at me. And I'll explain that a little bit more once I install it. It's going to work exactly like the cutoff switch mod that I did to this wheel on the other side, but I'm just going to put that switch right here. Before I do this mod, I'm just going to test real quick that these beepers still work. So that is the Amazon one, and then this is the Gotway one, which is much louder. So here's that switch that I installed for my motor cutoff switch, and unlike the MSP, this is a sustained or a toggle switch. It's not a momentary switch. So I push it down and it stays down. I push it again and it stays up. With the production MSPs, you have to hold on the button for the motor to cut off. And some people might like that, but I don't. So I put that on the other side of the shell for the motor cutoff switch, and then this one I'm going to put on this side of the shell for the beeper. And when it's closed, that will connect the circuit. So when it's depressed and hidden in the shell, it will make the beeper sound, and when it's popping out, it means that the beeper will not sound. It'll be off. So it'll be very easy to see if the beeper is turned off or not, because this will be sticking up. If it's sticking up, I know that it's off. If it's pressed in, then I know that the beeper is on. Again, to split the shell, you need to remove the 6 screws that are attaching the pedal hangers to the inner shell. You need to take off these screws. And lastly, you need to remove the trolley handle just by undoing these 4 screws. So 2 screws right here and then 2 screws at the bottom. Alright, so I've got the screws all taken off. I don't have the pedal screws taken off on the other side. I'm hoping that just by having the one side off, I can spread it open enough that I can do everything that I need to. Here's the cutoff switch for the motor that I installed. I'm going to be putting the exact same thing on this side for the beeper shut off. This is going to replace this guy right here. I forgot to disconnect the battery. Luckily I remembered before I went much further, but if you're ever taking off your motor or doing any sort of electrical modding, be sure to unplug the battery and then push the power button a couple of times to bleed out any of the residual electrons in the system. That'll save yourself from sparks and potentially blowing your circuit board. One of the last steps to remove this guy, other than unplugging everything, which I have yet to do, is that there's a screw. There's too much glue in the way. So there's a screw I can show you on. So there's a screw right here that helps keep this onto the left side panel. You need to unscrew that screw, and then this whole thing will just slide right out. So I'm going to work on getting that out, and then I can unplug everything because I'll know what the correct wires are. Alright, so I've unscrewed that screw. I'm going to try not to lose it. Alright, well, that's on the table somewhere. So here is the stock, everything. Okay, I know GoPros don't work too well in close-ups, but wanted to just walk some of these cables through. So the charge port is this guy right here. Man, that was a toughie. Okay, that one's through. Now I need the USB port that I have never used. I want to see if I can fish that out. I'm glad that they put these wires behind the battery pack because it helps keep them in, but it's really getting in my way right now. Alright, I'm switching to my phone so you can see better. Sorry if it is shaky. The USB port and the power button are tied to the headlight wires as well. They're zip tied, as you can see right there. So I went ahead and cut all the zip ties except for that one way up there because I didn't see it. So I'm going to go ahead and try to cut that one. Be very careful that you don't accidentally cut the wires. Alright, now that that's cut, I can clearly see what wires go to the USB port and which ones go elsewhere. And what do you know? It all goes to this giant glob. So I'm going to have to remove all of that. Thank you, Gotway. Okay, be careful with this. Everyone's MSX board seems to be different from Gotway, or MSP board. MSP board is definitely different. So M Super X 100 volt. This wire is the headlight. This wire is the USB port. And then this wire is the on-off switch. This one on the top right, that is the buzzer. This took a little bit of finagling, trying to get that glue off, but I got it all off. Alright, got the old one out. Look at all that glue that I did not want to have to deal with. So now that the old one is out, I can put in the new one and hook up everything. So one thing that I've heard about these beepers is that you don't want to cover these holes, and I had not intentionally planned for this, but those holes just barely poke out on the top side of this print. So all the holes will be fully exposed and on the exterior of the shell. Now obviously this will be a huge rain weakness, so if you ever ride in rain, this might not be the best idea for you. It doesn't rain much in San Diego, but it does. So on those days, I think I will just put some saran wrap over all of this. I've seen people do that, and that should be just fine. Put a little bit of glue right there and kind of a lot of bit of glue on the outside right here just to keep most of that in. That's the motor cutoff switch. I plan to put the same thing on this side, right over here in that empty cavity, and feed the wires down through there. I drilled my pilot hole. It's roughly 1/8 inch drill diameter. Last time I made the mistake of drilling the big drill very slowly, and as soon as it broke through, it just drilled right through and wasn't clearing the chips. So this time I'm going to drill very fast and hopefully prevent that from happening. But we'll see what happens. Drilling through thin plastic with a big drill is very scary. I was able to do it. I did kind of hit the backside, but it doesn't look like it broke through. So, we're good. Turned out a little bit better than last time, so I'm happy about that. I think the best way to drill through this material would be to use like a spade drill or something to the effect of that, where it drills a little pilot hole and then it has two little cutters on the outside that cut down instead of using a drill. Now they also have specific drills for cutting thin plastics, but I did not buy that one, unfortunately. But basically what needs to happen is this one needs to be attached to here, and then to the side going into the wheel, like that, and then the two blacks need to be soldered together. So I'll have a complete connection like that. So I just want to make sure I'm thinking this through right. So I'm thinking I might just take some of this excess wire and put about 3 or 4 inches right here so that I can feed it through and then pop it out right here and then do all the wiring out here just so I don't have to deal with any twisting of wires. So I think I'm gonna do that. Then I'm going to install the buzzer, put everything back together, and then do my connections and testing right here before I solder everything together. Oh, and by the way, before buying EUCs, I knew nothing about soldering and stuff. Just so you guys know, this stuff isn't necessarily difficult. You just have to have the right tools. I'm borrowing a lot of tools from other people. Doing modifications on your wheel is not scary. Just don't lose any screws. Video yourself while you're doing it so you can see where screws go if you ever mess anything up. And I mean, it's not that difficult. Alright, got my cutoff switch with the extension wire soldered together. Okay, now that that's in, I need to screw on the nut that is over here on the back side. Okay, here are my two little wires. I did not give myself very much room at all to work with, so I recommend, if you're doing this on your own, go ahead and solder the entire length of wire that you have, feed the whole thing through, and then cut off the excess that you think you'll need. Because this is not much space to work with, but it's something. So now that I have the switch installed, I am going to install this, feed all the wires in, and then solder everything together after I do a quick test to make sure it works. I'm pretty sure it's going to, but always a good idea to check things before you package it all up and then it doesn't end up working. So I've got my beepers, I've got my wires. I'm going to split this ever so gently so I don't pull my wires out. Going to feed in the new power button, and then I'm going to see if I can feed these small wires in the same way that I did the others. And the way that I did that was just get a pair of needle nose pliers, gently grip those, and then push them through and grab them with the other hand. All of them are in, they're installed. Now let's see if we can get this guy in and put the shell back together. Make sure I still have all my wires. Slide that in. Ooh, that is such a nice fit. So the easiest way to install that screw is to completely take the two halves apart, rip them apart, lay this one down on the ground, and install the screw. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do it the harder way. So it took me a long time to install that screw because the screw is non-ferrous. And so what I ended up doing is I put the screw on top and then I hot glued it to here. Like so, and then screwed it in, and then I just ripped off the super glue, or the hot glue, sorry. So now that's in there. Let's put these halves together and do some tests. Alright, I've plugged everything in, the battery, the power cable. All that's left now to do is test out the beeper. Well, so I've turned on the wheel and the beeper, it's not plugged in right now, so it doesn't make a sound. So that's test one complete. Alright, so I just did a little test where I just pinched all the wires together and everything worked. I'll throw a little graphic on the screen, but just to explain it to you, so I've got 6 wires here. From the board, the positive of the board is going to the positive of the switch. The negative of the switch is going to the positive of the buzzer, and the negative of the buzzer is going to the negative of the board. Hopefully that made sense. If not, here's a picture. Now time to solder it all together. Alright, so everything's been soldered together. The wheel's in retard mode because of my cutoff switch. Now it's in balance mode. Typically, when I go from one to the other, it beeps at me. But right now it's not, because this is open. So I'm going to close that, and now when I push the button to engage the motor, I hear a loud beep. And I turn the buzzer off. Nothing. So it works. Now that's all. Now all I have left to do is to ride this thing fast and see if I can hear the beeps at high speed. If so, I'd call that a success. There's the beeper right there. And it's still got the charging port and the power button. Alright, I will put the covers back on the pedals and go test drive this.